Welcome to another episode of the PJ Who Podcast. I'm your host, PJ, and on today's episode, I'm going to be giving you guys my Eastern and Western Conference playoff predictions. One thing I want to tell you guys before I get started and telling you guys my predictions is basically what I like to do is I like to give two different predictions within one, because like I said, my mind races, so I don't have just one singular. I like to just give it all, So I do this every year. I usually tell my brother on the phone, I'll give him two different predictions. So just keep that in mind when I give you guys my NBA Finals predictions. There's going to be probably two, and same with the conference finals as well, okay? So I'm going to go through the Eastern Conference first. I'm going to give you guys literally all the teams. Maybe some of them are going to be in order. Some of them are not going to be in order. But for the most part, it's going to be in order. I'm just not going to give you like a wins-loss record because it's too many numbers, okay? Too many numbers. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give them my, my top 10. So I'm going to give you guys my top 10 teams that are making the playoffs in each conference. And then I'll give you guys my NBA Finals predictions. For the Western Conference, I'm going to have a little bit more to say about that because I think that conference, I think I can speak for all of us, has a lot more going on than the East per se. And that's no disrespect to the teams that are in the East. I just think the West is a lot more, is very closer. I think it's a lot closer race there. So I'm not going to waste any more time with you guys. We're just going to dive straight into it. So I want to give you guys my Eastern Conference playoff predictions all the way. So remember, in the conference finals, I'm going to give you guys two different conference finals. Okay. So give you my standings. So at number one, and we're just going to go down, I have the Boston Celtics finishing first in the East. I think that's no surprise there. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. The New York Knicks, I got the Knicks finishing second. I am a little worried about that. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The biggest concern for me with New York is health. Karl Anthony Towns has a lengthy history of injuries. OG Anunoby does, and Mitchell Robinson does. And truth be told, Jalen Brunson has not had crazy injury history. Last year in the playoffs, he did get hurt, so that was in the back of my mind when I was doing this. But yeah, injury is the big thing for me with the Knicks. Like, I'm really worried about those three players, and obviously they're a very thin team. They got some promise on their bench. Don't get me wrong; they have some players on their bench that have promise. But for this specific season, I'm worried about them. But I do have them at second with the big question mark. Okay, I just want to let you guys know that. Number three, I actually put the Bucks at number three, which may be a surprise for some. I have them at three because I know with Philadelphia, Joel Embiid's not playing back-to-backs. So if you take back-to-backs out of it, he's only going to be potentially available for 69 out of 82 games. And I'm going to be real. I don't even believe he's going to play 69 games. So I had to tack off a couple more games from him playing 69, and I just don't trust it. And then obviously Paul George is hurt. He's going to probably be out for, a good amount of time as well. He's probably going to miss the first, I'm just guessing. I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming he's probably going to miss the first month and a half of the season, maybe a little longer. So yeah, I just couldn't put faith in them finishing in third. So that's why I put Milwaukee third. I actually put Philadelphia fourth. And yes, I know on Milwaukee, I know Dame has had like nagging injuries the last couple years. I know that. I know Giannis's play style is very reckless. He can get hurt at any time. Another important thing that kind of worries me about the Bucks, I guess I would say, is Brook Lopez I think Brook Lopez is 37 or 38. That worries me. He's getting up there in age. But for the most part, Giannis is going to be Giannis, and I actually want to give a shout out to Giannis because last year, if I remember correctly, Giannis finished the season averaging 30. He was the first player in NBA history to average 30-10 on 60% shooting, and nobody was talking about it. I thought that was really weird. The dude had a crazy dominant season last year, so I just want to give him a shout out for what he did last year, okay? So yeah, I have Milwaukee third. I got Philly fourth. Don't really need to talk too much about that. Fifth, I have Cleveland. And I think Cleveland, I know some people are high on Cleveland. I can see Cleveland finishing third if Milwaukee has injuries or if any of those other four teams have injuries outside of Boston, because I think Boston will be one regardless, even if Porzingis is hurt, because that's my biggest concern for Boston is Porzingis. But I can see Cleveland finishing third for sure, Just want to throw that out there to you guys too, but I got them fifth. And then sixth, I got Orlando, Pacers 7, Miami 8, Atlanta 9. And to close out the last playing spot, I actually tugged back and forth between a couple different teams here, but I went with the Charlotte Hornets making the play-in. I believe LaMelo having those ankle braces on his ankles, I think that's really going to allow him to play a good amount of games. And I trust Brandon Miller. I think he's going to make a year 2 leap. I like Miles Bridges. I like what Miles Bridges brings to the table. Mark Williams is a huge question mark. I talked about him and his injury history in my preview for the Charlotte Hornets. But, I got to just put faith that he's going to be available. If he's available, I think no doubt this is a play-in team. No doubt if he's healthy. If he's not, they could just be kind of tiptoeing. So I guess I'm banking on him to be healthy and LaMelo to stay healthy. I believe if those two players are going to be out there, I think they'll have enough. I like who they drafted. I like Tijani Solanu. I like a little Trey Mann coming off the bench for them. I think he might surprise. He's going to surprise some people this year. I think he might even be in the conversation for 6th man of the year. Even though I didn't put him on my ballot, he's a little scoring dynamo off the bench, So, yeah, I got them at 10. And also they got Josh Green. But, yeah, so that's why I have them at 10. And so that means missing the playoffs. I got Chicago barely missing the playoffs, and that's because I do think at some point they're going to trade Zach LaVine. I talked about that in my Chicago Bulls season preview. So that's why I took them out of that spot. And I think they should. I think they need to get ready for next year's draft anyways. 12, I have Toronto. 13, I have Detroit. I still think Detroit will improve on games. And Detroit was a team I really was considering for that play-in spot, if that's crazy or not to you guys. I was considering Detroit. I was. Because I liked how they added more shooting and spacing, but I just couldn't convince myself to do it. But if they surprise me and they make it, I guess it wouldn't be a surprise, because I considered them. But yeah, so they're 13th, Washington 14th, Brooklyn finishing last. With Brooklyn, I got to put some respect. Actually, I don't need to put respect on his name, but Ben Simmons, he might win Most Improved too. I didn't have him on my ballot, but I know they've been talking crazy for him this offseason, so he's somebody, I guess, just to keep your eyes on and see if he actually can get back to being what he once was before the foul happened, before Trae Young fouled him. So, but yeah, I just wanted to put him out there, We'll see what happens with him. But yeah, so that's my Eastern Conference. I want to give you guys also my Eastern Conference playoffs, just the conference finals. But if you let me know what your Eastern Conference standings are, if they're similar to mine, if I have some teams too low or some teams too high, let me know what your opinion is about that, okay? So my Eastern Conference finals, I'm going to give you guys 2 of them. The first and the most likely one is the Boston Celtics versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, you guys are probably like, no way, not Philly, probably the Knicks. I'm going to give you guys my reasonings why I took Philadelphia. So, Boston, we don't need to cover Boston. Boston's Boston. I'm not going to waste nobody's time talking about Boston. We all know. The biggest question mark for Boston is literally Kristaps Porzingis, okay? I said I was going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it. The biggest thing is Kristaps Porzingis. I believe if Kristaps Porzingis is injured like he was last year in the playoffs, and it is more likely than not he will be hurt, but let's say he's not. Let's say he's healthy, then obviously they're going to get there. But if he's not, I do believe Boston can be got. I think Kristaps Porzingis, impact-wise, is the 3rd most important player to this team. He just opens up the offense for Tatum and Brown and even some of the other guys just better than Derek White and Drew Holiday. Those 2 players are just defensive aces, and I salute them, and I'm not saying they're not important. But Porzingis just allows certain things to happen for this team. And I believe if he's not healthy, then the Boston Celtics, they're not going to the NBA Finals and winning the Finals without Porzingis. I'll put that on the record, and if that's a hot take, then it's a hot take. I'm pretty sure you guys agree with me, though. So, so I just wanted to throw that out there to you guys. If he's not healthy, then that is that, okay? So, I have them versus Philly. Now, why I took Philadelphia is because I think we've all heard the term the basketball gods, right? So, Joel Embiid has not gotten the luck of the draw in the playoffs, per se, with his injury. Yeah, that year with him and Ben Simmons when they lost to Atlanta, everybody threw that all on Ben Simmons, but Joel Embiid did not play that well either in that Game 7. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe Game 7, he had like 6 or 7 turnovers, if I remember correctly. You guys facts check me, but I'm pretty sure he had like 6 or 7 turnovers in that game. Like, he did not play that well. Everybody put on Ben Simmons, and yeah, Ben Simmons played a part in it, but Joel there's no excuse for him. But so that's besides the point. Obviously, he's had a bunch of injuries in the playoffs. He did have that year again, what I just talked about was him and Ben Simmons. But I do believe the basketball gods are gonna bless Joel Embiid this next playoff season. I do. And also, this would be year 2 for Nick Nurse. Obviously, they got a couple new players coming in. I really like their bench. Their bench is solid enough. I like Kyle Lowry coming off the bench. We'll see if Jared McKay will be a part of their playoff rotation. I like Andre Drummond coming off the bench, giving them 10 minutes in the playoffs. I like the dude from France, Watanabe, or whatever his name is. I like that too. But also, I talked about him before too in their season preview. Ricky Council. Watch out for Ricky Council. He's going to surprise some people this year, I think, too. But, yeah, I like Philly's bench. Obviously, their starting 5 is solid. The biggest thing is the health of Paul George and Joel. And so I do believe he's going to be blessed, and he's going to get to the conference finals. He'll finally get over that hump and at least get to the conference finals and quiet the naysayers. Because the sport of basketball is about stories and narrative, okay? If you don't know that, you know it now. Okay, I've been doing this for years. I just haven't been on the camera. But it's all about narratives, and what perfect narrative, what narrative is better than Joel Embiid finally getting over that hump, getting to the conference finals, being healthy, going up against the juggernaut of the Celtics. Like, what better story than that? And they could beat Boston, I think. If Kristaps Porzingis is not going to play, and let's say Boston do get back to the conference finals and he's not playing, and Philadelphia is healthy, Philadelphia can beat them. I'm sorry, Al Horford cannot guard Joel Embiid at this point in his career. Al Horford's, 38, 39? He ain't going to be able to mess with a prime Joel Embiid, okay? Let's just be real there. So, yeah, that's why I took that conference final matchup. Let me know what your conference final matchup is, too, okay? My secondary one, I did Boston again, but I got them going up against the Bucks. Don't need to talk more about Boston. I already told you my why is Boston and why not Boston. So the Bucks, I took the Bucks because I worry about the health of the New York Knicks. I just talked about it to you guys. I worry about the health of OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, and Karl-Anthony Towns, and their bench is pretty thin outside of those 3 players, outside of those 3 players in total, like that. That really worries me, okay? So that's why I couldn't take the Knicks here. I want to take the Knicks because, in my opinion, I believe the New York Knicks, when they're in the playoffs, I believe they have the best crowd, man. Like, by far, I'm sorry to all the other fan bases that think, your home crowd's better, but there's no crowd like New York, man. There's just not. It's something about the Garden. You could just tell the fans in New York, I be feeling like I'm in the arena, and I don't live in New York, but I be feeling like when I'm watching on TV, even regular season games, they just played last week. They were playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think it was. And that game it was just captivating. I was just sucked into the TV. I was like, bro, this feels like a playoff game. And you guys know what I'm talking about. I think Anthony Edwards had like 32 or something. I think he had like 7 or 8 threes. It had intensity. It was a lot of intensity in that game. And like, you could just feel it in the crowd. So no disrespect to New York. Let me get back on track. I'm getting off track. Yeah, my biggest concern with the Knicks is just health. I worry about their health. So that's why I didn't put them here. And I would prefer New York over the Bucks personally, but I put the Bucks here because also I can see, again, narrative based. I can see it. Giannis and Dame. Can they get over the hump? Can they get to the finals? They're in the conference finals. I can see it. Oh, Doc Rivers got these boys playing. I can just see the narrative being baked in for the Bucks to get to the conference finals and play Boston, okay? With opportunity to get to the finals. And I can even see them beating Boston and getting to the finals if Porzingis is not healthy. Porzingis healthy, I'm taking Boston. And with that being said, I am going to take the Boston Celtics out of the Eastern Conference to get back to the finals, okay? So that's the East. You guys give me your Eastern playoff predictions, okay? I'm very interested to see what brackets you guys have and who you got going to the conference finals, who you got going to the finals. Again, I could be wrong, but that's why I'm doing this, I'm not here to be a perfect man. I'm here to be a progressive man. Okay, so during the season, obviously, we're going to see things happen. Trades are going to happen and injuries are going to happen. And that's why I took all that into consideration when I was making each of these brackets for each conference and the NBA Finals. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, obviously, if we're not doing no injuries, then stuff's going to look a little different. But I know injuries are bound to happen. It's a part of the game. I'm just trying to predict when they're going to happen. Okay, so that's the East. We're going to move over to the Western Conference. And same old deal. I'm going to give you guys my top teams for the West, And again, give me you guys' opinion about the West. I want to know what you guys' thoughts and minds are about it. But again, I'm taking in consideration injuries, potential trades. I'm trying to consider all this stuff. And it's hard. It's nearly impossible to get it right. But I have been able the last, I would say 4 or 5 years, I've done pretty darn well. I've either predicted the finals matchup or the winner of the finals the last 5 years, okay? So I plan on keeping that streak alive, okay? So let's get to it, man. I'm pumped. Let's get to it. Let me drink some water real quick. We're going to talk about the Western Conference. Now, with the Western Conference, like I said, I'm going to have a little bit more to say about the West. But first, I'm going to give you guys my seedings and the order of the teams, okay? So, number 1 in the West, no surprise, we got the Oklahoma City Thunder at 1. Don't need to talk about that. I actually, and it might be, might be a surprise for some, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know how many people got them second, but I got Minnesota finish second in the West. Don't need to talk about that. I got Denver finishing third. That might be a hot take for some because I know some people are down on Denver. That might be a hot take, but I got Denver third. I got Dallas fourth, Sacramento 5, Memphis 6, Phoenix 7. I got the Houston Rockets at number 8. And that may be a surprise to some or may not be for others, okay? I got New Orleans 9. And making the last play-in spot, I got the Los Angeles Lakers making it in at number 10. Okay? And so that means missing the playoffs. Right outside of it, I have the Warriors at 11. San Antonio at 12. I got the Clippers finishing 13th, which might be a surprise for some. But I think I'm going to flip that, actually. I'm going to have the Clippers finishing 12. I'll have the Clippers finishing 12, and I'll have the Spurs finishing 13, actually. I'm going to flip those, actually. And I have the Clippers finishing that. Again, I'm trying to think about injuries and potential trades. I'm trying to take all that in consideration, and I think I just don't trust Kawhi Leonard, okay? I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure most of us don't. I just don't trust him. If Kawhi's going to be healthy, then, okay, this is a play-in team, okay? That's a no doubt. But, again, I can't go off of that, okay? I can't go off of probability. I got to go off of possibility, okay? So that's why I took them not making the play. And then 14, I got the Jazz, and 15, I got the Blazers finishing last, okay? Now, I want to give you guys the reasonings for the top teams. And so I'm not going to talk about every team in the West, but I just want to give you guys my reasonings and reasons why not some of the teams, okay? So honorable mentions right outside the bubble. I have right outside of that, I have Phoenix and the Grizzlies right on the outside of like making the conference finals or winning the conference. So I'm going to talk briefly about them, but I didn't write no notes about this. This is live. This is me just right now about to tell you guys about those two teams. So with the reason why I didn't put Phoenix in my top 4 or even I don't even have them winning the conference. I'm just going to say it right now. And I don't, same with the Memphis Grizzlies too. I don't have them winning the conference. So my thing with Phoenix is I believe Bradley Beal, and I said it in my Phoenix Suns preview, I think he needs to come off the bench. If he comes off the bench, then they can put I would probably put either Royce O'Neal or Ryan Dunn in that starting lineup at my 4-man or my 3-man, depending on which player it is. But I just don't like the idea of it being Tyus Jones, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. I think that's just a very small backcourt. I just don't like that. Tyus Jones is 6'2", I think. I think Tyus Jones is like 6'2", 6'3". He might be like 6'1". I think he's like 6'2", 6'3". Book 6'5". Brad Beal 6'4". That is just a really small lineup. Really going up against some of these other like bigger teams in the West. I just don't like that for them. But we'll see. Who knows? Maybe Ryan Dunn or Royce O'Neal will start and Bradley Beal will come off the bench at some point in the season. But that's why I don't have them there. And also, I don't trust the health of Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, or even Devin Booker's really honest. I don't really trust the health of those, or even Nurk. I don't trust the health of none of those players. So that's why I have them finishing 7th. Because and if they finish 7th, it's going to be a lot harder road for them to get to the finals, you know. And then with Memphis, kind of similarly, obviously, this is going to be Zach Edey's rookie year. So he's obviously going to have to go through, going through learning how to guard on the NBA level, staying out of foul trouble. So I don't, and he's going to have to guard Nikola Jokic if they made it that far or if they in the playoffs. He might have to deal with a guy like Domantas Sabonis who's going to put a lot of pressure on him. Even though he's bigger than Domantas, he's still going to put pressure on him. I think a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein could put a lot of pressure on him. I couldn't buy into Memphis getting there. And then John Morant, To me, John Morant's just a scoring point guard. And typically, just looking back on NBA history, typically the 6'2 guards, it's hard to have a 6'2 guard as your best player and you getting to the finals or even winning one. The only players that have been around that height that have done it at the point guard position has only been Isaiah Thomas and Steph Curry. And then AI got there. AI got to the finals. So usually the small point guards as your best player usually is not the formula. Usually you need the shooting guard or the small forward or the power forward as your best players, and sometimes the centers. So I just couldn't buy into Memphis right now, unfortunately. So that's why I didn't take Memphis. Okay, so now I want to tell you guys about some of the top teams in the West. Okay, we'll start off with the Thunder and my reasonings for the Thunder potentially getting to the finals and my reasons for not choosing the Thunder. Like I said, I'll give you guys my official prediction of the West at the end of this, but I want to explain myself to you guys. So the thing with me about the Thunder, the number one concern for me about the Thunder is the word adversity. The Oklahoma City Thunder have not been through any true playoff adversity yet. Last year was the first year that this young core has been in the playoffs, and they got to the second round. But if I remember correctly, most people were not even picking them to beat Dallas. Okay, so they didn't go through any adversity. They didn't really have much expectations last year either. Whereas this year, I mean, you can see it in my award episode. I had Shea on my MVP ballot. I had Jalen Williams on my most improved ballot. You know, some people got them winning the West. Some people got them winning the title. There's going to be a lot more expectations. But with expectations comes pressure. And with pressure, there's two things that happens when you apply pressure to a diamond. It either becomes a stronger diamond or it crumbles, you know? So I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think they have to go through some type of adversity first. So that would be my reasons for why not. But also, I want to talk more about adversity with you guys because you guys may say, well, they have been through adversity. The only adversity this young Thunder team has ever been through is when Chet got hurt before his rookie year, okay? And that's not even adversity. It actually benefited them, okay? So, but I want to talk more about that, though, because we're going to dive even deeper with adversity. So if you look at the last 6 teams that have won the NBA title, they've all been through some adversity before they got there and got over the hump, okay? We're going to start off with the Toronto Raptors. LeBron was in their way, okay? Eventually, obviously LeBron left, but then the Raptors got over the hump. They won the title, okay? That was in 2019. 2020, the Lakers, again, they went through adversity. LeBron, if I remember correctly, got injured the year. I think LeBron got injured in 2019, if I remember correctly. He got hurt in 2019. But even before that, the Lakers were just a laughingstock, you know? But they went through adversity. LeBron got hurt. 2020, they won the title, okay? 2021, the Milwaukee Bucks. They couldn't get over the Miami Heat hunt. And people were laughing at Giannis in the playoffs. I remember that. People were literally laughing at the dude, mocking him and stuff. Oh, Giannis can't be your best player. Giannis can't make free throws. Giannis ain't got no jump shot. Eventually, Giannis got in the lab and made it happen. They won a title, okay? After Milwaukee, 2022, the Golden State Warriors, they were on their drought. They were on a drought after Kevin Durant left. People were wondering, is the Warriors ever going to get back over the hump? What did they do? They got over the hump. They won the title in 2022. 2023, same thing. The Denver Nuggets went through their adversity. Couldn't get over the second round hump. Jamal Murray getting hurt in the playoffs or before the playoffs. Then, eventually, again, got over the hump in 2023. And the most recent one, the Boston Celtics had their adversity as well. Again, they couldn't get over Bron for a little bit. They couldn't get over the Heat. And then eventually, you know, they had their injuries. Kyrie got hurt and stuff. But eventually, they got over the hump. They got to the finals, lost to Golden State, and then later on, again, 2 years later, got back and won it. Adversity happens, and that's not just even in basketball. That's in all the sports. All the sports. You can look just back at other sports teams and other sports leagues. You typically have to go through some type of adversity before you get there and really before you win one. Okay, so that's my reasons for not OKC. Don't mean I'm not going to pick them. I'm just throwing that out there to you guys. And I'm going to give you guys an inside look on how I view things and how I view the game, you know? So that's that. Next team. I know a lot of people are super high on the Dallas Mavericks, and I don't blame you, but I'm going to give you the reasons for not choosing Dallas. We're going to start off with the most obvious. Klay Thompson's about to be 35 in February, okay? So that really concerns me. Also, I wonder, And you guys are probably going to say, well, he signed there, so he should already know. Him adjusting to the Dallas Mavericks play style, him going from being in that motion offense in Golden State, being with a superstar that's so giving like Stephen Curry, to going with playing with two ISO players like Kyrie and Luka. And Kyrie Irving, for disclosure, Kyrie Irving's my favorite basketball player in the NBA. He's been my favorite basketball player since he was in New Jersey in high school, and then he went to Duke. I'm a Duke fan. I'll talk about that when I start talking about college basketball, why I'm a Duke fan. And I love Luka. Luka's one of my favorite players too. So I'm not trying to like slander them or anything, okay? But I'm just pointing out. I'm keeping it a buck with y'all. Keeping it a buck with you guys. So I'm just interested to see how Klay Thompson reacts to that. Reacts to playing alongside Kyrie and Luka and basically just being in the corner. Obviously, they're going to run little flare screens for him. But it's different, man. And Klay Thompson, again, he's been with Golden State his whole career. So that adjustment period, is he going to be okay with that? Because Klay Thompson is kind of a hothead. You know, he's very vocal and very, you know, emotionally based, which is not a bad thing. But it's something just to monitor. So that's something that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. And him being 35, that is concerning to me for sure. Another thing is the miles on Kyrie Irving's body. Another health thing for me. The last time, outside of last year, the last time Kyrie Irving had a healthy playoff run and went that deep into the playoffs was in 2017 with the Cleveland Cavaliers. We know what happened to him in Boston. We know what happened to him in Brooklyn, okay? That is something I still have to consider. What are the odds of Kyrie giving us another healthy playoff run? That is something that, for me, I'm going to be paying attention to. And also, this is going to be year 14 for Kyrie. Can Kyrie still be the second option going back to the finals in year 14? I don't know. But again, it's something that concerns me. So I'm just putting it out there to you guys, okay? The third thing, last year, Luka was getting beat up a lot in the playoffs, and that concerns me a little bit. You know, does this become a reoccurring thing for Luka where he's getting deep into the playoffs and he's getting hurt? That's something I got to keep track of. Obviously, yeah, I know Luka's still really young. I know that, okay? But he did deal with his playoff injuries last year, and that's concerning to me. Also, Luka is, you know, right now not in shape. But he's somebody that he's very similar to me to like Nikola Jokic. When they start playing, that weight just falls off of him at some point in the year. But yeah, that worries me about him is how is Luka going to hold up in another deep playoff run, okay? Another thing I want to point out to you guys, it's hard to get back to the finals. Really, when you're as young as Luka Doncic is, he's 25, and I kind of did my research on it because I was thinking about it too. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about myself while I got a chance. History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme, okay? So for me, I'm a very big component of history. I love looking back on history and reading into history. I love doing that kind of stuff, okay? That stuff, I love it because it does give me an idea, or at least a kind of like a little dab of salt to throw into my overall pot, okay? And usually when I do that, it usually shows itself, and I'll talk more about that to you guys once we get to my final stuff, okay? But, so yeah, usually people of Luka's ilk, of Luka's ability, superstar ability, usually they do get to the finals young. We've seen it happen with a lot of them, where a lot of these young dudes, they'll get to the finals very young, and then, you know, they won't get back for a while, but then eventually they'll start winning titles and stuff, okay? I did my research, and Magic Johnson is the only person in that age, that was that age, that got to the finals, and he went to the finals 4 years in a row from the age of 22 to 25. Everyone else didn't get back to the finals that young. Some of you guys are going to say Kobe. Kobe was actually younger than 25. Kobe was young, but he wasn't the best player on the team. I'm talking about people that were the best players on the team. Magic was the best player on the Lakers most of those years. But that's besides the point. Anyways, it's hard to get back, okay? At that age, I'm just going to say it's hard to get back. So that's also to keep something in you guys' back of your mind. Usually we don't see people that young get back-to-back years, okay? So that's something also. Another thing, I kind of just talked about it, but if this Dallas team, if they're going to be healthy, then we have a different conversation. But I told you guys, as I'm giving you guys all these predictions, I'm taking in consideration injuries, okay? And obviously there's no way to predict them, but I'm trying to predict it as best as I can, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong, okay? And I know we can say that about any team, but right now I'm specifically talking about this team, okay? Those are things that I just wanted to throw at you guys about the Dallas Mavericks, okay? Another team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Mike Conley, their starting point guard, is going into year 18. I would be foolish to say I'm not worried about that. And let's say he does get hurt. Who's going into the starting lineup? Dante DiVincenzo? Nickeil Alexander-Walker? You're not going to put little Rob Dillingham in the starting lineup yet. And then what does that mean? Ant's going to be your one? I think that could be problematic, and that's something to keep in your mind. So that's something that I'll be keeping for sure in the back of my mind. Really, if they do, let's say they do get to the playoffs, and Anthony Edwards got to run point guard because Mike Conley's hurt. Having to, play a team 4 to 6 times in a row, teams are we've seen it happen to players who are normally not in their position, like last year we seen it happen with Devin Booker. He's not a point guard. He played the position, as best as he could. But we can see that same thing happen to Anthony Edwards, where he has to play point and try to get everybody involved. And also still, it takes repetition and time to be a point guard, just like any position. So that's something that worries me is Mike Conley going into year 18. That's something I'm keeping. Also, another thing is the spacing between Julius Randle, McDaniels, and Gobert. None of them are good enough shooters to me to keep the defense honest. Yes, McDaniels, he shot 40% in the playoffs, but that's a small sample size. In the regular season, he shoots about 35, 36% for his career. I think he will be slightly better eventually. But again, that's something that concerns me is the spacing between them. Another one is the ISO ball between Julius Randle and Ant Edwards. They both kind of play a little ISO ball a little bit. I would say Julius Randle a little bit more than Ant does, but they both are kind of ISO players. How does that work? Is it his turn, my turn? Because again, this is going to be their first season together. It's going to be their first playoff run together. So obviously the defense is going to look a little different in the playoffs compared to the regular season. So I'm just curious to see what that looks like. And that is something that is somewhat a little concerning for me. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am slightly concerned about that, but I'm also concerned about Julius Randle coming off of shoulder surgery. That is also something that concerns me, okay? Another thing, I'm not a big fan of Julius Randle's defense either, and some of the bigs that they may have to guard in the West could be problematic for him. But also, another thing, yes, down the stretch, they could have Julius Randle and Naz Reid and take Rudy Gobert out of the lineup to help a little bit with the spacing issues, which I can see them very much doing, and they probably will doing. But the problem with that in the playoffs is you're leaving the rim very vulnerable. If you look at just about all the top teams in the West, what do they like to do? They all like to get to the rim. The Thunder, the Mavericks, we'll throw Memphis in there. Memphis, Denver, we'll throw even New Orleans in there, even though they're not a top team in the West. New Orleans likes to get to the rim. The Lakers, these teams like to get to the rim. Sacramento, these are teams that like to get to the rim and will be able to put a lot of pressure, in my opinion, on the rim against Minnesota if they go small like that. So those are things that concern me. And also, but I'm going to give you guys some things that I do like about Minnesota because everything right now sounds dark and gloom. I do like Julius Randle's playmaking ability for this team. I also want to say him coming off of shoulder surgery, it could be a good thing. He might be a better shooter. But also, I love their bench. I love their bench with Naz Reid, Dante, and Lil Rob Dillingham, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and even the spotting minutes Joe Ingles are going to give them. Okay, I do like this team. I think in the playoffs, obviously, your rotation is going to shrink down about 8-man rotation, so about only 3 of these dudes are going to come off the bench. So I do want to say I do like their bench, but those are things that concern me, okay, about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Last team, the Denver Nuggets. So my big concerns about Denver is I'm pretty sure for everyone is their 3-point shooting. That's something that obviously is concerning. You lose KCP, and now you're going to have Christian Braun starting. Is Christian Braun going to be able to get up to league average in 3-point shooting? I believe he will. I talked about it in my season preview for Denver Nuggets. I think he will be able to get up to 37% from 3. But yeah, so that's something that really worries me. Another thing is Jamal Murray's knees. Jamal Murray, over the preseason, didn't play in some of the games because he was dealing with knee soreness or whatever. To me, that is very concerning. And then obviously during the summer, in Olympics, with Team Canada did not look good. In the playoffs last year, I think he did get hurt against the Lakers and then just didn't look that good against Minnesota. In spots, he looked okay against Minnesota. He had a great Game 7. He had, I think, 35 points in Game 7. He had a great Game 7. But yeah, I'm worried about his knees. That's something that really concerns me about this team for sure. And then also another thing that concerns me, but also has the potential to be a plus, is them having to play some of these young guys. Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, and Julian Strother. Julian Strother is going into year 2. Christian Braun and Peyton Watson are both going into year 3. This could be a good thing or a bad thing for this team. I believe that I think it more so potentially is probably going to benefit them, in my opinion. I talked about this, like I said, a lot more in my season preview for Denver. But yeah, so Christian Braun's going to start for this team. And then coming off the bench, Peyton Watson's a pretty solid defender coming off the bench. And then Julian Strother, to me, is just a scoring dynamo for this team. Unfortunately, they won't have Deron Holmes, which I think is going to sting a little bit because I think they're really banking on playing him this year. But I'm interested to see if Zeke Naji can get some run. He can stretch out a little bit to the three-point line. But just one thing I do want you guys to kind of remember about Denver is that all their core guys are still in their prime. Nikola Jokic is 29, Murray's 27, Porter's 26, Gordon's 29. They're all still in their prime. So I don't know why a lot of people are writing them off. I'm not necessarily writing them off at all because, like I said, all these guys are still in their prime. I think Braun will be able to come in and provide a different look to the team per se. I don't think, obviously, his three-point shooting is going to be what KCP had, but I think he's going to be a better cutter without the ball than KCP. I think he's going to be much better in transition for this team, also because he's a lot younger, a lot faster, a lot stronger, and he got a little bounce to him as well. But also on the defensive end, I think physicality-wise in the playoffs, he's going to be able to match up with some of these bigger wings in the West better than KCP, because KCP, although is a good defender, he was thin and he was in his 30s. He's in his early 30s. Braun's still a young pup. So, but yeah, so that's just something I want to tell you guys about them. Now, I want to give you guys also my Western Conference playoffs. So, my conference finals, again, I have 2 of them for you guys. I want to give you guys 2 different ones. My first one and the main one is the Denver Nuggets playing the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, in this scenario, OKC, we would get a rematch of the semifinals from last year with OKC playing Dallas and Minnesota playing Denver. I think Denver would get the revenge on Minnesota, and I think OKC would get over the hump and beat Dallas. That's my opinion. Now, between those two playing each other, in this matchup, OKC versus Denver, I would take Denver over OKC because I don't think Isaiah Hartenstein or Chet are going to be able to deal with Nikola Jokic. And Nikola Jokic would be the best player in the series. But also, like I just told you guys, their 4 core guys are all in their prime. And also, the narrative is going to be there. You remember, let's go back to what I told you guys about OKC. I told you guys they got to go through some adversity. So what better way to go through adversity than to be in the conference finals playing the former NBA champs, the 3-time league MVP Nikola Jokic versus the young Thunder with the potential MVP on the team and the most improved player, and they had this great season. They got a chance to go to the finals. They got home court advantage, and then they lose to Denver. That would be adversity because, a lot of people are going to pick them to go to the finals or go win the finals. So that's what I think. I think Denver will beat them in the conference finals, and they would go on to the finals. In another scenario I have, my other conference finals matchup, I have OKC versus Minnesota. And I have this matchup. In this matchup, I have OKC beating Minnesota and them getting to the finals and playing Boston. Now, the reason why I don't have Dallas, I kind of told you guys, I just worry about the health of that team. And again, I know you can say that about any team. I know this, okay? I don't need you guys in the comment section telling me that or you even looking at your TV saying that. I know, okay? I'm just trying to predict it as best as I can because there's no way to predict it. And obviously, before the playoffs even start, we're going to give predictions again anyway, so it doesn't really matter, okay? This is just preseason. So, in the NBA Finals, I just gave you guys my matchups. In one of them, I have Boston versus OKC. Another one, I have Boston versus Denver. In both of those scenarios, I still have the Boston Celtics winning the NBA title as long as Kristaps Porzingis is healthy. In that circumstance, again, it's very narrative-based, very story-based. The NBA is all about entertainment, okay? I think Jason Tatum gets over the hump. He gets his final MVP. He gets his flowers. People put respect on his name. He finally has a good final series win. Finally has a good final series performance. I think, and that's it. I think that's what we're gonna get. But yeah, So that's all I got to really say to you guys about that. You guys let me know what your playoff predictions are. I'm very interested to see down in the comment section below. But other than that, next time you guys will see me will be after this first week of the NBA. Oh, actually, I want to give you guys my opening night prediction. So opening night, I have the Lakers beating Minnesota by 2, and I have the Celtics beating the New York Knicks by 5. Okay, so those are opening night. That's what I got. And next time I see you guys will be after the first week of the NBA season has concluded. I just want to thank everyone who has subscribed and has supported me. This is the beginning of something special. I really believe that in my heart, and you guys have shown me support as well. That's let me know that I'm doing something right, and I'm going to keep putting out the content. Let's have an amazing season this year, you guys. Let's really, really make a statement. And I would very much appreciate if you guys could subscribe to my channel if you haven't before, but also share the content to your friends and family, and let's really make something special out of this, okay? I just want to thank you again for checking out my podcast. Again, I'm your host, PJ, and PJ's out.